I think number one, we're going to see the continued evolution of the reporting space. I think you'll see more companies reporting better data. I think that you'll see the reporting spectrum spread from the large companies into the medium-sized and smaller companies, although it's at a slower rate than we would expect. I think the second trend that I would identify would be the growing awareness of the necessity of a good materiality assessment. I think that companies are starting to understand that a materiality assessment is the genesis of their ESG reporting and not something they tick the box on and do later. And then third, I think that we're going to see some political social intervention in the ESG space. So in the US, we've seen a lot of the new wave of politicians elected focusing on environmental issues in particular. I think you're going to find engaged audiences in the business spectrum trying to bring companies into the environmental debate in a way that they haven't before. Well, I think we've seen proposals at some of the financial accountancies and accountant structures to integrate more ESG and materiality analysis into their methodology. That's going to be helpful. I think that you've seen a wholesale change in the way that we understand, particularly climate reporting through the TCFD, the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures. I think that materiality assessment of a company's intersection with climate risk is an important part of that reporting framework. And I think that finally we're going to see a bit of a change, hopefully a bit of a change in the reporting process itself, so that more and more of the results of a materiality assessment can be put into a company's financial filings and not just into the sustainability report or left buried on someone's desk. I think there is a wide gap. I think mostly it's because investors don't always know what they want and companies don't always know how to report or what to report. I think there's been, for many, many years, a terrible miscommunication between the two. Some of that is born of the newness of this space. There's no robust, mature data that everybody agrees is gold standard. I think that a lot of investors are looking for interesting angles on the data to try to create returns. So in some cases, they are not necessarily driving better corporate behavior. They're just looking for more materially relevant insight for their own financial bets. But I think we closed the gap by trying to harmonize frameworks, by getting frameworks to participate together and correlate their findings, so that SASB and GRI and CDP and TCFD, they are correlated, so that if you answer on one, you essentially are answering on the other. They're not mutually exclusive. And I think that the other way we close the gap is by investors not just asking for data, but actually voting their conscience, being more proactive owners of companies with ESG issues, and trying to drive better corporate behavior, not just through ownership, but through active ownership. I think investors are looking for an edge in the insight into long-term value creation and behavior at the company. And I don't think they always know exactly what that edge is or where the data insight will come from. So I think they're looking at non-financial materiality disclosures as a way to understand more about how the company operates. It is a lens into the governance of that company, a lens into the environmental and social performance of that company. But I think it's a bit of a black op right now. I don't know that companies are really disclosing in a way that investors understand, and I don't know that investors are asking specifically enough for the information they need from companies. Understanding the role of Datamaran in the ESG reporting space and the evolution of that product has been really important. And I think the evolution of that product specifically in driving better materiality assessment processes in corporations is going to be really useful. So learning more about that, seeing the live demo was actually pretty helpful. But just also this growing awareness at a stock exchange. We had a public company, we had a Bloomberg reporter. So just the dynamics between media and regulators and companies on ESG issues is an open dialogue now about materiality, and it's an open dialogue about ESG issues in a way that it hasn't been before. Technology technology has certainly enhanced the accessibility of data. I don't know about the reliability of data. More data in the system doesn't necessarily mean it's good data or actionable data. This just means there's more. I think that there have been advances in the visualization of some of this data, how we actually draw inferences from what ESG means, and we start to look at performance in a way that actually drives behavior. That's been a key change in the technology space. Also, standardizing labels, definitions, issues in a way that companies can talk to each other and talk to their stakeholders and be using the same language is very useful, because I think for 10 years companies have been making up their own labels and using their own definitions. So I think technology is driving more universal compatibility in those two ways.